You're listening to Always Building.
All right, guys, welcome to the Always Building podcast. We are here with martin.adey, the head honcho here from Leadosaurus, based out of Vancouver. He's doing sales development as a service, reaching out, doing that lead generation, that top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel stuff that we all love to talk about so much. And so I'm really happy to kind of bring Martin in here. He's a very intelligent guy running a successful agency. So super stoked to just pick your brain, Martin, and kind of jump into it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate the invitation.
So let's start by just jumping into your personal journey, kind of where you come from, how you started in all this stuff, how you kind of got to where you're at now, and a little later we can focus a little bit more on the future and kind of what's next. But right now, I'd love to hear just your story and sort of how you got involved in all this nonsense.
Yeah, it is nonsense. I fell into it just like everybody else pretty well in our industry. I had my first company probably 5 or 6 years ago in the commercial lighting space. I finished school out in Victoria, BC, and then I moved back to Winnipeg where I was born and raised and bought half of a lighting startup that was doing like commercial LED. We do the rebates, we sell these energy retrofit projects. Mm-hmm. And that grew really fast. We went from, 0 to 10 employees in 8 months or so. We broke the $1 million in revenue in a year and a half or so. And like any rocket ship, it was kind of destined to fall apart on re-entry. So that one actually, ended maybe a year or so after we saw the first sort of bit of success, and very efficiently transferred all of the value we had created to lawyers and accountants, as you often do when you fail to sign your partnership agreement and, you're just two guys having a good time.
Damn.
So yeah, we lit a huge pile of money on fire, but had a huge box of wholesale lessons that come along with it. And then after that, I started a second company in the same industry, and I still have that. I actually just brought an operator in, which allowed me to focus on Leadosaurus, which is kind of what I'm much more interested in.
Awesome.
And the company was just born in like one of the classic scratch your own itch sort of scenarios where like I had been doing, lead gen and outreach for myself as a salesperson for 10 years, and doing cold email and, experimenting with multi-channel stuff. And a lot of the tools weren't there yet. You're trying to figure it out and you see how fast you can break Google. Which is fast, turns out.
Yeah,
and faster now, much faster now. And then, so we just found ourselves in this lighting company in the situation where, like every salesperson's dream is to have a calendar full of meetings. And it finally got to a point where I was just like so sick of the meetings. And then I'm a member of this group called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, which is a great group if anybody has an interest in finding a peer network of other founders and entrepreneurs. It's awesome. It's been really good for me. We can chat about that more after if you'd like. But a friend from EO just said, hey, dude, would you set up this prospecting system for me? And he had a pretty significant AV business. And we set it up and it kind of worked. And then he said, people would pay money for this. He didn't, of course. But he said people would. And then that's kind of how Leadosaurus was born. So we just, during COVID, we had, no lighting sales for 9 months or so. So times weren't particularly grand in that industry. So we just spun off a marketing startup, kind of had the idea almost a year ago, and then, incorporated in May and did some sales before that, just under the other corp to, kind of prove the concept. Turns out, it's a very proven concept, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of these agencies doing this.
Yep.
And they're all very generous with sharing ideas and help. Like the community of founders in the agency space has just surprised me with how open and willing everyone is to share what they're doing, yourself included, man. I really appreciate all the insights you've shared with me as we closed our first really big deal, I remember, and I didn't really know what the hell to do with it. So I called you up and you helped me figure out a couple of different ways to slice it, and it's going great. So
awesome.
Thanks
awesome.
for that.
Glad to hear that. No, you're quite welcome, man. And yeah, no, I definitely, that's so awesome that you mentioned that, because I think that's um, something we all take for granted, because a lot of us, many of us anyway, kind of ended up in the agency space just kind of through, I don't know, kind of that bootstrapping mentality of just kind of, I know you're on that as well, just kind
Totally.
of like coming up with an idea, validating it, slamming, just, sometimes having to pay the rent, sometimes wanting to scale up and just, feed employees and have, they're having kids and all this kind of fun stuff, just that whole evolution of the agency thing. But yeah, I agree with you, man. There are a lot of really cool agency owner, kind of people out there that are just, they've helped me a lot in the past too, man, and just been like a really, so much good mentors out there in that kind of space. And the business model is so great. So yeah, I'm really glad
Yeah,
you mentioned
man.
that.
I'd encourage anybody listening, if you're just starting out or in the first year, first couple years,
Yeah.
to just you guys do cold email, so you should know how to get a hold of these people you'd like to meet.
Sure.
Right. But
Sure.
I've been shocked at how willingly people have shared, what they do, and it's helped a shitload, because trying to figure this stuff all out, like trying to learn the whole business at the same time. This is my third crack at a startup, and I'm finally starting to realize that, like, you don't have to learn everything all at once, so.
Man. Yeah, no, you've touched on a lot of really cool points so far too, and I definitely want to zoom into a couple of them to kick this off, because it's an awesome story. I love that you come from. I guess we can just sort of start here. That I just love that you come from commercial, kind of an industrial supply chain, B2B, warehousing, inventory. I think I already mentioned supply chain kind of business where
Mhm.
you have commercial LED lighting. You have an offer, which is a great offer, and I'm only going to speak on this for a sec, because I also have experience doing lead gen for commercial LED companies myself, and awesome offer always. The rebates are, there's these kind of, what do they call, money for jam, or there's a couple ways to say it, but these kind of, basically, giving you money back as an offer, right? That's not
Yeah,
this, oh, I'm
man.
going to make you money, I'm going to, save you time. It's really none of that. It's about giving you back an incentive for moving to like a better technology or a different technology, something that the kind of government is like subsidizing, wanting more of this out there. It's good for the world, it's good for people. Those kind of offers are just so awesome. And in B2B, in B2C, they're just blessed. There's so many of those offers flying around, right? You have like every kind of, in the insurance sector, you have that, in in real estate, you have that, in energy, kind of like residential energy, you have that. But with B2B, it's kind of a rare thing. So
Yeah,
I'm
man.
curious if you can kind of dive into that a little bit, because I think a lot of people listening don't even know what the hell we're talking about right now. So it'd be cool kind of to go into that first business and sort of, yeah, what got you into that business specifically, and kind of how did you learn anything kind of about offers and about what kind of did you pick up in the sales and the marketing aspect of it through that process?
Yeah. Well, I think one reason I fell into the outbound agency space was because I have always been in B2B in some
Yeah.
capacity, whether it was in food and beverage, or custom apparel, was in that industry for a while, and lighting. And the B2B space just lends itself so well to cold email, right? And cold email done well is a secret weapon. And you talk about the rebate thing, and I think that was a bit of a light bulb moment when I had done cold email, probably 2012, 2011 for a few years as I was a salesperson for a really cool company called Passion Sports out of Victoria, BC.
Okay.
And this is great. Like I really learned a lot there. I cut my teeth, but that offer was different because it was just your traditional, offer. We could do it faster or maybe cheaper or what have you. But then when we, sending up cold email with the lighting game, you talk about the rebate thing. Like anytime, if anyone can think of that dummy offer, like in our case, probably one of the best performing outbound things we did for our own company, like the classic 80-word email. Hey, noticed your plant on blank street. It's like we're reaching out to manufacturers. So notice your plant on blank street. We recently helped blank company get a rebate of $65,000. Think we might be able to do the same for you. Interested?
Bam.
Nothing. and like, holy shit, we ended up getting, I don't know, two sales out of it and a couple of prospects, but those two sales alone would have been 150K, something like that. Which was just wild to think like we sent 60 emails in that mini segment,
Yes.
And it just, it's just crazy. So anytime you can think of a dummy offer, and we're kind of doing that now because we're experimenting with cost per lead, probably a little more relevant to the people who are listening here.
Yep.
And that dummy offering, right?
Yeah.
If there's some sort of guarantee, people love a guarantee. You don't have to use the word guarantee, but anytime you can make it just so easy to say yes to, right? Like we would say, hey, we'll come out and do a lighting audit for free, and we'll tell you what rebate the government's going to give you,
how much you can save. Yeah, exactly. How much you get back. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. What you can save. Like, how can they say no? So you're just going to come down and do it? Of course, the downside is that you get so many tire kickers who just, want to take any meeting, but you get to pick your suffering, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, would you rather have the tire kickers and build some relationships with those guys that can end up going somewhere maybe later down the line, and then also get some sales as opposed to turning away lots of people with kind of a rough soft ROI offer, right? And not being able to kind of pull that in. So no, that's brilliant, man. I love the experience there. I think the cost per lead, everyone here will kind of I'm sure some listeners here will be pretty familiar with that, but I always love the rebate offer. And I want to mention too that, those companies, and I want to get your opinion on this, going into a company like that, as a prospecting expert, as somebody that can take an offer like that and really drive sales with it, more than internal people, you got opportunities right there, right? You just created an opportunity for yourself, helping commercial LED companies connect with manufacturers that use a lot of energy, right? And a lot of lighting.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think one thing I would actually love to chat with you about, because here's something that's top of mind for me, and I'm struggling with it, and I'd love to get your insight. And I imagine I'm not the only one trying to figure this problem out, just like I wasn't the first person to start a lead gen agency.
Sure.
Niching. Niching, how narrow to start, when to go broad, and like how to choose your niche. This just seems like such a debated topic. And there's no easy answer, and we all tread so fearfully around it because we're like, well, shit, if I pigeonhole myself, to this little tiny thing. But
sure,
we hear so many stories where like that's all of a sudden you own the space, and it's so easy. And not only then people also want to be the exception of the rule. Like, oh, we only work with venture-backed B2B SaaS companies. It's like, well, you can still take a coaching client because they're like, well, shit, you're so good at that. We would love it. And then they feel good. I don't know. So
you said
that's my thought process. What's your take on niching?
You said it, man. Well, I'll sort of pull from a couple different sources. So, I mean, this isn't all me inventing this, obviously. And this is kind of, I have a mixture of my experiences and different areas at times of my life, and then I've also got mentors who are serious enterprise sales guys, and dealing with like big deals and stuff, and so I get a lot of input from them as well. And I think my standpoint on it's kind of different for everybody to some extent, except that when you're in the skill building phase and you're really trying to get an offer, like you're talking about, something that you can do better than everybody else, it can pay off to take any client. It can kind of pay to sort of just have as many experience. So in my own experience, I kind of worked with everybody under the sun. I've worked with commercial LED companies. I've worked with manufacturers. I've worked with tech companies. I've worked with startups. I've worked with mid-market. I've worked with commercial refrigeration companies with, offers like you're talking about with rebates. I've worked with solar B2C companies. I've worked with the list is insane. Basically, the amount of niches. I've worked with web designers, helping them out. Agencies, and so. In my experience, I think there's a couple of things you always want to know. And number one is and this is kind of a weird counterintuitive thing, but is the industry growing itself? I think is the number one thing I like to look at. Is the actual industry growing? Because I've hit some limitations in the past with niching, where I would niche down. Like I had manufacturers and logistics companies for a long time where that was kind of our sweet spot. And we were it's just so easy. Like you're saying with the commercial LED, it's the same thing. It's just so easy. You're in a supply chain. People need what you're offering. It's just a question of getting in touch with the right person. So it's kind of a numbers game. We didn't use any personalization. There was no, we were just slamming emails out and getting them clients. It was just RFPs and requests for a proposal, and, OEMs versus distributors and strategic partnerships that they hadn't thought about, and, et cetera, right? And kind of just doing that supply chain dance. But to my surprise, it was like the industry is not growing. These companies aren't popping up every day. There isn't like a new manufacturing factory,
Exactly.
every fucking minute
The
of every
average
day.
age of a manufacturer versus a tech startup, right?
Exactly. Or an agency owner, or any of that kind of stuff under the sun that
So
we're talking about
you
right
fall
now.
into a TAM problem pretty quick, right?
Exactly. You kind of hit a point, and it's not necessarily a TAM problem. Like, you probably go out and find more people, and when you have strong case studies, it's good. But yeah, you're just gonna kind of hit a limit at some point, unless you're on a pay for performance basis, which is really tough to negotiate with those kinds of companies. In my experience, they're not really into that. Like in my personal experience, so you got to kind of think about that, I guess, before. Like, you should have qualifications for the niches that you're thinking of going after. I think that TAM has to be ever expanding. There has to be new players in the market. There has to be some kind of audience to link into that's not going to be like limited at some point and kind of stop your growth. Because I feel like if you like, we were growing really fast in that space, but somebody that was into tech startups, or someone that was into e-learning, or someone that was into e-com, they grew 5 times as fast as we did, because they were just there's just more inertia going on. So
if you're expanding into an expanding market, it's just totally different, right? It's like, I think that's one thing that I really noticed about just going from LED into the agency space, is like going into an area that has headwind or tailwinds instead of headwinds, right? Is like, it's just a dream. Like, not to say that this shit is easy, right? Obviously, and people at home know, it's like, this is not, it's not like, there's no such thing as an easy business. We all think they are, right? Everything looks great till you get in it and you're like, oh my God, you start pulling your hair out. But there is a headwinds and tailwinds thing. And, going into an industry that is expanding as you're expanding, like, there's just a lot more room to move versus going into something like manufacturing. When we were selling LEDs, like, especially regionally, there's 1,200 manufacturers in a certain region. Like, well, shit, that's not huge. And we sell a physical good. So
it's a different strategy for sure. You have to kind of employ in that kind of business, and it can be wild. Like you made it, it can be wildly successful, but it is definitely like a different relationship and a different kind of vibe that you're building with the whole thing. But I think growing market is just that's one thing you just want to check off. I think at the end of the day, like, you can do whatever niche you want to do, but I think at the end of the day that should be happening. Otherwise you will, because it's kind of something that people say a lot, where it's sort of like, if you go look at a market and there's not a whole lot of players in that market, you could say, whoa, it's an untapped niche, but chances are it's probably just a shitty niche. You probably people just aren't making that much money, so it's not very. So going into crowded niches is very important. I think that's my number one advice: is go sell cold, fresh ice cream on a hot beach to, on a beach with fucking people on it that are sweating their asses off who want some ice cream. You know what I mean? Like, go capture demand. Don't create it from the get-go. And of course, you can always create demand later once you have cash flow going, and maybe that niche becomes very, whatever. But those are different situations, kind of edge cases. But I think, some people need to just dive in, I think, and just do. I think so something I wanted to zoom in with you on the topic of niches is that you had a sales job. Seems like you kind of kicked everything off with a sales job, sort of out of, coming into your own, so to speak, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, for example, getting a job is something that can be kind of like poo-pooed on by people in the agency space specifically, and out there in Guru Landia or whatever, people are kind of, the 9 to 5 is shit. And the more I talk to people on the podcast and just in general, the more I see that, no, come on, guys, that this is where you learn. Like, you can learn so much in a job and then be able to take that and have domain knowledge into your agency, into your niche. You know what I mean?
This is so funny. Yeah, I gotta share a story that I'm gonna overshare.
Please.
I'm gonna overshare, but I'll try not to.
Please do.
Yeah. Fuck it. It's hilarious you bring this up, because this has been on my mind, and like, learning a new industry, like, what better way to basically go get like a paid internship, by a great company or a great founder, and learn what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And an agency that I really like, that's very established and is significant, doing significant revenue, been around for a while, works with a lot of venture backed, you might know Nodding Along, but I'm not going to say any names. They actually like made me an offer to come and work with them for a while as an employee, which is of course like antithetical to who I am now. Cause there's this thing where like the thought of having a boss, no matter what the cost. Right. And in one way it was like I felt a little bit proud because I just like immediately recoiled at a job with a number that would have been like, I don't know, 8 years ago, if somebody offered me that amount of money, I would have thought that I would ever turn down a salary like that, And this, I was like, no, man, no, sorry. Like I really appreciate it, but like, there's just no fucking chance. But I'm honestly still considering it, because the opportunity to learn, like what better to go in and see the systems and learn from someone and actually build a relationship with someone who's doing what you want to do. So we do poo-poo on the employee route, but another friend was actually saying that, like, what could be more entrepreneurial than going into a place and learning everything that they do, as the shortest, most direct path to your own business. And of course, you're not going to go in there and just like steal someone's business. And, so you got to be pretty transparent about this with what you're doing. So you're not just a dink, but the reality is that, people do come into companies and leave them. So yeah, I think it's a neat idea, even at this stage for me, like I would even, having been an entrepreneur for whatever, 5 or 6 years strictly, I would still consider it, so I'd encourage anyone to do the same.
I think that's very humble of you and really interesting of you to mention that, though. I think that's really, that's a pretty candid moment that people can kind of take and go, you really have to assess what your future. Also, it's kind of a thing of like, those short-term gains are great, but what's the long-term look like? And, if you can get into a space like that headlong, understand the insides and outsides, and even more than their systems, because obviously, I would say most 9-to-5s you come into, you're actually there's going to be things to be desired in the systems. You're going to be kind of, damn, I could build this better. But, who are the customers? What is the offer? What are the mechanics of the sales process? Like, those things are that can be mind blowing. And especially in a sales position, you're like the closest to revenue. You're making more money than anybody else in the goddamn building. Right?
Always.
So, and a lot of people, I think, don't see it that way. And I think that's because at the end of the day, and, I talked to a really great guy named David Riggs the other day, and his on the podcast, and his whole thing was, it's just what you can do in a job, what you can learn in a job, can just be so mind blowing for that long term, process. So anyway, not to belabor it, but I think
we could wrap it. Another friend, because like I had actually discussed this with friends, because seriously, wow, this seems like an incredible opportunity. And hopefully this doesn't air before I actually make up my mind. But another friend said, I think it was a Seth Godin quote, where when he's asked, how do you build $100 million business? His answer is, go work in $100 million business.
That's it. I think that anyway, say no more. I think everyone listening, definitely consider that for the future, man. Consider that for the long term, because like maybe, you could probably make an agency, keep all the money, or be a freelancer even, and keep all the money and do some fairly big deals, get what you're worth and make a bunch of money, but you're missing out on some experiences. Also, back to the niche thing that we originally were talking about, I think, just getting experiences, learning from, like you said, people that are already doing what you want to be doing is that's really a good place to start if you're really just starting. And if you're a little bit further along and maybe you've already been doing this, working with a bunch of different niches, I think you definitely need to look at growing markets. And I think really what I'm finding, and you probably will resonate with this as well, that's just recently with everything I'm doing, it's kind of like I'm sort of selling to a younger me in a sense at the moment. Like, all of my plans are revolving. Like, I was like, what niche? And then, right in front of my face is like this big group, this huge TAM. They're being added to every day. They're, there's a goal in their head, a very clear goal that I have achieved that, they can achieve. Pretty much anyone can achieve that's not, distracted or, doing hard drugs or something, or whatever. But, they can achieve this, if they put a little muscle into it. And, I know this person because it's me. I'm speaking to me 5 or 10 years ago. I think ultimately I'd say that's the best niche. If you can do that, that is always going to be the best niche. And sometimes, like we're saying, that cornerstone is to go get that sales job, learn the ins and outs of this thing. And then, you do that for a couple of years, you level up, you start your agency, and then you'll hit a point where you go, okay, I need to choose a niche now. And, God damn it, why don't I just sell to old me in that, in that sales job, but to those people that I know so well that, or whatever that is, or even not the old me, but those customers I work with.
Yeah, I think you've done a really good job of that. That's initially how we would have connected, whether it was on Twitter or, Yeah. In one of your Telegram groups. But I think you have done a good job of that, of just being really, transparent and useful to people who are where you are, somewhere along your own journey. And it's just like, Tim Ferriss, in 4 Hour Work Week, the initial, the original Bible for all of us in this space. That was his thing, right? 30-year-old him in metropolitan cities and, major cities, mostly males. And I think I think it makes it a lot easier, right? Because you just understand it. You understand your buyer.
That's right. And
you can also be really genuine, right? Like, how easy is it to connect with people who you have so much in common with, so you don't have to really sell it. You can just go and do your thing and be yourself. And then, it's the headwinds, easier, right? Headwinds. Exactly.
It's the headwinds versus tailwinds thing you said. Do you want to have to get on the call and figure it out, or do you want to get on the call and answer the questions and solve the problems, right? It's sort of an appeal to the desires, because I think in any market, there's a lot of different dynamics going on too. I think in commercial LED lighting, there were companies that were 20 times bigger than you guys. They were at like 20 mil, 40 mil, 100 mil easily, right? And their market is a completely different market. They're looking at doing different kinds of deals, different dynamics. They have the shit to back them up. They're going to be going after kind of a slightly different psychology than you're going to be going after as $1 million company. And to a lot of people listening right now, if you're in those spaces, $1 million is not, that's like you're starting to get there, right? That's not even, like in the agency
it sounds like a lot. It sounds like a lot. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. It's worth it to note that, right? That we're talking about, like, and in the industry that I was working in too, manufacturing. Dude, my clients were 40 million and above only. I did not work with anyone under that ever. In manufacturing with 50 employees, how the hell are you gonna? They don't have money if they're not making over 4, right? So
exactly. Well, imagine what does it cost to pour iron, right? What is it? We had a guy. We had a foundry. A foundry with a hydro, like electricity bill, $300,000 a month. $300,000 a month in electricity, because they're melting steel. They're pouring steel.
That's right.
Melting iron to pour steel, which is different world. And we can we conflated, as we did in my first business, right? Conflating revenue and profit is a dangerous game to play. So like 7 figures sounds like a lot, but especially businesses with cost of goods sold, it's not necessarily a huge number at the bottom line.
No, not at all. And it's just, those margins, and like with the rebate offer, again, anything that makes those margins thicker is just it adds multiples to the situation, rather than just being kind of that little impact. Which, again, with the cost per lead, I think in the agency space, there's a lot of thought around this right now, how to make a big impact and get paid for it, frankly, right? And figure that out, because the retainer model is awesome for building that first cash flow. But then once you get to some level, you start to go, God damn, like for me, for instance, I was helping that 40 million a year company, dudes driving a Bentley, like people are living crazy, right? Like these guys, they actually had a pretty small team for what they were doing and stuff. And
1.2 million per revenue per employee, right? Like,
you hit a point where you go, you hit a point where you go, God damn, I'm over here charging $4,000 a month. To me in the beginning it was a lot, but later on you start to go, God damn, if I was taking 5%, 2% of the revenue I was generating with these ad campaigns, I'd be like a millionaire as well already, right? So it's kind of, there's definitely that offer that you're bringing up. I think is a really interesting, interesting sort of thing, and kind of bleeds over into all these industries. So really interesting. So you said you were so sick of meetings, man. I really love. So there were 2 things you mentioned, actually. Number 1 was the bad partnership, and I wanted to zoom into that a little bit. I don't want to get too intimate with it. You don't need to share what you don't want to, but I am curious because. Okay, good. Because people, this is something where I'm encouraging people all the time to go seek partnerships. And this EO thing that you're in, the Telegram group that we're running, I've heard of a couple people meeting through that group already and working together. There's all these communities now and all these ways to connect with people. Going it alone is like the worst possible thing you can do, except for having a bad partnership. So I'd love to kind of zoom into that a little bit and get your feeling for how that went down.
Yeah, I'll spill the beans. So this wasn't, like my former partner wasn't necessarily, wasn't a particularly bad or malicious guy. We just put ourselves in a situation where it brought out the worst in each of us. We made just the critical error that almost everyone I talk to who's been around for a bit makes of not signing their shareholders agreement and like actually writing it, because it is expensive. Like a good USA is $5,000 if you want to do it right. But really, like even like the Crayola contract, it's a 1-page Google Doc that you type up and you can ink it in blood if you want. Right. That's going to be better than nothing. But like, you got to get clear on expectations. And most importantly, like what we needed was exit. Like we just didn't have a good exit. So like a shotgun clause is a really easy one. If people are doing 50-50, like I know it seems about a 50-50 split of the people I know who will never, ever do a 50-50 deal again versus the ones who are like, all I do is 50-50 deals and they love it. So I do think it's different strokes. I think they can both work, but you need exits. You need a way out. You can have a shotgun, which is a really elegant maneuver, right? If anyone hasn't heard of a shotgun clause, essentially it means if Alex and I are partners 50-50 in a company and we decide we want to separate at any time, or it could be time stipulated, but at any time, if I decide I want out, I can write down a number. In this case, we'll assume it's 45 million to buy for my half of the company or your half of the company that we built together. So I write down a number and I bring it to you and I say, the partnership's not working out. We're going to split. You now have the choice. If you think my number is low, you can buy me out and get a deal. If you think the number is high, you can take the money and run. So it's inherently fair. So shotgun's a great way to do it. Or other exits as well. Like, just kind of planning for like the 3 or 4 things that could go wrong, because by the time you need them, like when we were on the rocket ship, with buckets of money everywhere, thinking that we were mistakenly thinking we were taking over the world, foolishly, we just didn't realize that by the time you need the USA, it's too late, because you can't go and ask for that after the fact, because it signals you don't trust each other. Now the walls go up. Now it's an emergency, and that's where we ended up, right? So because we didn't have a way to protect the company, we just fought over it, or stalled, and just had a terrible mess for months. And it was hard on the staff. It was hard on us, super hard on us. It's been a couple of years, and he was a very close friend, and we've still never spoken. Been 2.5 years. And I would love to, but again, it's just kind of like, we ended up doing the whole going to court and a bad battle. And it's so easy to avoid. And the only ones who wins generally, just like divorce, it's the lawyers, maybe the accountants, if you have enough left over. But sign your USA, think of 3, like, what are the things that go wrong? Like, I end up, or Alex ends up, stealing my wife. Okay, if that happens, here's how we play it, right? If I steal Alex's wife, here's how it goes, right? Alex wants to, he starts competing. Like, there's only 3 or 4 really scenarios you're gonna run into. One of you guys wants to move away because you realize that you were supposed to be in the jungle, and you were born to go, and you got to go to Peru and do your ayahuasca, shaman sort of trip. Awesome, right? Have at it. But
sure,
know what that is. And then, you want one more?
Sure.
Okay, one more thing that I think I wish I knew then that I have learned is conflating ownership and income, like employment. So they're like, ownership is what you own. That's your equity. Those are your dividends. That's not your income. And if you ever want to build a sustainable business, you need to at least have a line item, even if you can't pay it to yourself yet, of what a market-based wage for yourself is. And there's a great book that's probably 100 pages long, called Simple Numbers by Greg Crabtree. It has a terrible clickbait subtitle, but it's a great book. And that's one of I think it might be the first chapter, is like, get your owner compensation right. Like, stop BSing with a ton of expenses in there that aren't actually the company's expenses, because you never actually get an idea of what your business is doing and what's it worth, and it's not going to be saleable. And then further, if you and your partner, if one of you guys wants to leave, you already have a market-based wage built in. Great, we can hire someone for that. And then you don't even necessarily have to split, right? If you and I decide that I need to go and do another company, great, I lose my income because I'm not working in our company anymore. But if we're amicable, I can keep my equity, awesome. And now I own it. I don't have to do any work for that equity, right? Because I
Right.
was being compensated. But then again, you need to calculate that. So there's a sweat equity piece, because where you get sticky is if you're like, well, I put sweat in, for my 50% and I didn't get paid for that. Well, great, but you could have a line item for that. Your sweat was worth 55 or 155 grand, in that time. We didn't pay it to you, but now if you want an exit, and now that our company's worth 45 million because you and I did so well, great. I take my 155 of sweat out. It's a line item on our books, and I've been compensated for that as a market-based wage would have been. So that's something else I would have done differently.
Man, this is heavy stuff that I think everybody listening, it's it may be a couple steps ahead for you. If for some of you right now, for some of us, it may be absolutely painful to hear this because we're already in some kind of
if anybody's in this
setup
right now, don't go to court. Just don't. Don't even go to small claims. Like, it's just not worth it. You got to find a way to settle. And again, in that USA, having a thing, we go to mediation first, right? If that doesn't work, we'll just go to binding arbitration, and it's done. Right. And it's done within 90 days, right? Within 90 days, we have a deal. The company's not going to blow up. For us, we had fixed costs. We were burning 60 or 70K a month, so when we fought over it for 5 or 6 months, like, we dug a hole we couldn't get out of. There was no value left in the company. Right. So like, don't go to court. Right. And nobody wins. The lawyers are going to tell you, you're going to get a different story, even if they give you their best intentions. Don't go to court. Find a way to settle. Put your ego away, which is impossible. I didn't do it. I'm not saying I did it. Right. But if you can, put the ego down and you don't need to win. You need to get out alive, because at that point, winning's not going to happen. It's just how bad both of you lose.
Oh man. Well, this is just huge lesson from someone that's gone through it. I want to thank you personally, Martin, for this. And I think everybody, man, take notes on this stuff. Take notes on everything he said. Crayola contract to get going. Just something, please, God. I actually found a cool thing. You guys can Google it too, called the Founder's Handshake, which is like it. I can't remember the name of the actual damn company, but one of their products was called the Founder's Handshake, and they have another product that's a little more premium, but it's a basic contract for founders to get going that they're offering kind of as a product. And I thought that might be helpful to everyone listening too, and anyone going forward like that. But good God, have something, you know what I mean? And I think that one's free. It's pretty lightweight, but it's free. And then they have an upgrade through a higher plan where you get like a more in-depth kind of thing, like what you're talking about. But that Crayola contract, man, that shotgun clause. Dudes steal each other's wives. Dudes start competing on the side with weird conflicts of interest that don't really help anybody. You got people wanting to move. This is all incredibly important stuff. So I'm really glad we actually dipped into that, and kind of, I think everyone's gonna
if we could save one person's heartadeck, it'll be
seriously,
worth it.
Seriously,
man,
man.
It cost me a good year and a half, of my life.
Oh man, and that's even worse than the money. That's even worse than the money.
It is, yeah.
That amount of time. It's like you could have been doing anything else, right? But anywho, now that's really important. So learn from Martin's mistake, then, man, and hear the pain in his voice, man. You don't want to go through that. All right. So everyone listening, you can benefit from, you can benefit from this man's suffering. So we'll go ahead and do that. Everyone do that. Please don't overlook it. So so bad partnerships, man. But again, too, you got to have partnerships. You got to be open to that, but man, have something in place so that you don't get burnt, and not that you don't get burnt, but just no one gets burnt, like you're saying, right? There's just, when it gets bad, it's a lose-lose. You know what I mean?
It is. And
keep it a win-win.
Yeah. It helps both people, right? You just need clarity, because like, if you play a game, to which you don't know the rules, that's when you get into trouble, right? And just having, a foundation to stand on that just outlines the rules. Okay, so if this happens, here's how we do it. Then at least you know what game you're playing. It doesn't have to be complicated. But you want to talk tools?
Love it.
You want to do a little rapid fire on tools? What do you got for time?
Sure. Shoot it, dude. No, we got plenty of time, man. We can talk about all kinds. I actually wanted to dive into your so sick of meetings and how you transition from there.
You can do that one first.
Why don't we do tools? Why don't we do tools after that? We can dive into some tools. But I think as far as being sick of meetings, being on that sales floor, that killing floor, moving the needle for a company, being close to revenue like you were, that job, I think personally, I think it's a great opportunity. That job opportunity to get into sales is like the underlooked opportunity for most young people with little to no education, and even with a ton of education. Just depends on you. But anyone that's needing money and wanting to build skills, I feel like that sales job is huge. So I wanted to kind of take through that a little bit of Take me through that a little bit of sort of how you rose to that occasion, had that job, was doing that thing, all the stuff you learned. You had said that you really cut your teeth in that position, and then being sick of meetings and kind of what your next step was after that, and how you saw that, and kind of maybe what you would have done different now.
Yeah, awesome. I think you actually touched on a few things that are I don't know. I think are kind of profound, and it all ties together. This idea of doing the sales yourself. Like, again, I wasn't the only founder who was tired of sales meetings. So I think what we can all remind ourselves is that the easiest way to becoming the right hand of any founder you want to get to know and build a relationship with and learn from is by selling. Like, because it's really, really hard, and the founder is doing it. Chances are, for at least for a long time, and in most cases forever, at least in some capacity. And I think another thing you kind of highlighted there is just like how difficult it is, like why that's so valuable for any founders. Like, it's so difficult to hire salespeople. It's really, really hard, and it's really risky. Like my hit rate is probably 20%, 25% in terms of salespeople that actually worked out. And if you're paying a base, like each sales, when all said and done, it's a $50,000 mistake you got to get wrong 4 times to get right once. And it sucks. So what I did that I think was, in hindsight, like what served me really well, with this company, Passion Sports, out of Victoria, BC. They sell, custom apparel for sports teams, universities. Great company, super entrepreneurial, incredible founder named Greg Wallace, who's a friend still to this day.
Awesome.
But I took the risk out of it for him. I said I would work for straight commission. I wanted to work with him, and I want to work with the company. So for 6 months, I made no money, and I worked pretty hard. It wasn't full time. I had another job at the time, but it was kind of like an affiliate relationship almost. But it transitioned into a full-time thing. And then I remember when I went back to university in business school to wrap up a degree, like I was the only guy there who was making $60K as a full-time gig by fucking answering a few emails in class, right? So because I'd done this straight commission job, and then eventually I did negotiate a little base just so I could eat, and eventually went straight base, and then it ended up not really working out, ironically, right? We all think that we want every person thinks they want the security, and then you realize that it doesn't get you out of bed. But I think that was instrumental, because like I learned a lot, and I got to watch Greg build a great company, from, I don't know, probably would have been for sure under, it probably went 3 or 4x, to a pretty significant revenue figure while I was there. And getting to watch that growth. And again, I pretty quickly became sort of his right hand, at least on the sales side, because him and I were the ones who were selling the majority of the stuff. And, I always had his ear, and I could always call the guy any questions I had. And he knew that like there wasn't really any risk in it for him, because great, he's selling me he's giving me a percentage of gross profit or a percentage of sales. So if we win, we win together. If we lose, he's invested some time, I've invested some time, but it didn't cost us anything. So I think that's an easy way to do it, and to make it right. If I was an LED with too many meetings and someone came up to me and said, hey, I'll do all these meetings for free. You just give me a piece, you can teach me, and I already have some skills, and I'm willing to work really hard. And at the time, like I was digging deep into selling, listened to tons of podcasts at the time, and I was reading sales. I really wanted to learn sales. That's when I got really interested in outbound, really. So it was a pretty formative time. And I do really owe it to that experience at Passion Sports with Greg.
Love it, man. Take initiative. Everyone listening, man, I think there's a lot of action items in there too. I think the experience is great to hear. And I think also there's some actionable shit in there, which is go out there. I mean, guys, if you're, I've talked to a couple folks where they're kind of like, hey man, I'm really into sales and marketing. I want to be close to, and again, I think I kind of always frame it as being, close to company revenue. The closer you are to revenue, the more money you're going to make, the more experiences you're going to get, the better network.
Top salesperson gets paid more than the CEO.
Absolutely,
right?
Almost
always. In any company.
Absolutely, always. And marketing is like next on that ladder. People in top of marketing are doing big numbers too, because it's just, basically that system that drives revenue is going to be, everyone operationally on that back end is not ever going to get as much as those people. And it may not be fair, or may not, you may have your arguments about it, but I would say it's the reality in 99.9% of businesses, that the closer you are to revenue. So take that initiative. And if you're curious, anyway, back to what I was saying, I was talking to some people that are going, I don't know whether to sell SEO, or whether to do sales, or whether they're kind of at this like fork in the road where they're kind of, maybe they're in school like you were as well for part of that journey. And, they're kind of like, what can I do to get into this? Because I'm at school, I got to do it. It's okay, whatever. But I'm just suffering all day through it, because I know I could just be learning so much. Being in the cockpit of something, right? Whether it's my thing or someone else's thing. And I think for folks like that, man, sales is definitely like that low hanging fruit, man. And if you're introverted, I'd say still do it, man. Like I feel in a lot of ways I am pretty introverted, and you have to kind of like find that you have to be able to do both at the end of the day, right? Trying to use it as a cop out, like, oh, I'm introverted or I'm extroverted, right? It's like, no, man, you're both, and you need to embrace both sides to be able to, live a decent life, right? So I think taking action and jumping as close as you can to revenue, and if that's marketing for you and that's kind of where you cut your teeth and what you're really into, do that. But I think for most of us, especially with no education, because it's one of the biggest things I regret in my life, honestly, if I can share that, it's just, early on, I mean, I dropped out of high school, I have no education whatsoever. I completely just dived into just doing shit, freelancing from the get-go. I never had the idea of getting a job or doing any of that stuff. And, and I regret hugely at that time, dropping out of high school, I regret not just jumping into a sales job immediately, whether it was starting in a call center, moving up, going and approaching a founder I knew, anything like that, man. I regret it to this day, because it's like, God, I could have skipped like 20 steps doing that, just in the sense of like learning the logic and the psychology of selling, talking to more people, building a network, that is truly your net worth. I think that saying is totally true. And I think, what you did, I think is really, like you said, it worked out well for you. And I think it's something that everyone should think about. You know what I mean? See it as a mistake on my end, an asset on your end, and kind of see it in the middle.
Yeah, one of the few things I got right.
Well, well,
okay, here's a call to action. Here's a call to action to your listeners. If the riff that Alex and I just had resonated with you or moved you in any way, and you think you want to be, the person who is a slave for a founder for a while and wants to learn sales, send me an email.
There you go.
You can steal my playbook. I'll teach it to you. You give me a year. Then you can go start your own baby. Chances are I'll even help. I'll fund it for you. Probably. I'll give you your little seed money so I can have a piece, maybe end up mentoring you. And it could be a partnership, because again, we're all going to be in different niches anyway. And the pie in this game, unlike the lighting game, is so big. So there's a call to action. Fire me an email. Alex will put it up in the show notes or something. And
absolutely, I would just say it. What is it? Martin?
Yeah,
what is it?
Martin.adey. Yeah, martin.adey, ADEY at Leadosaurus, like the dinosaur.com.
Perfect. All right. I just want to throw that in there. Email this man, and also email me if you'd like. Alex at I don't even know.
No, don't email him. I want your slave labor. Don't email
Martin.
Yeah.
Email Martin. Well, I'll probably throw you at Martin anyway. But I mean, yeah, if you guys want, it's wonderful. I love it. So yeah. So either way, you email me, email him. We'll connect you, man. Whether it's Martin you end up working for, or there's somebody else that fits you better. There's just get in touch with people, man. Start reaching out. I think that's the main thing. And obviously, Martin needs some sales reps. So anybody listening, man, jump in, man. Yeah. He's always going to need them. Every organization needs them. They truly are the foundation. Yeah. What was that? I'm sorry.
It's just like leads.
Yeah.
Like, show me a business that doesn't want more leads. Show me a business that doesn't want a good salesperson.
Man, so true. So you guys take the initiative here. I think it's really important. We were going to jump into tools, but even before we do that really quick, I wanted to talk to you about the power of networking, because what you mentioned in kind of your intro there, I thought was really interesting, that you're in this EO. I think, you went through this COVID time. You're one thing you mentioned to me earlier is that, you haven't really had like a funding event in a company that you've owned. You've been bootstrapping this whole time. You're like me and many of us, you're a full-on bootstrapper at the moment and have not really done the funding route. However, in your networks, you are probably, and I'm just assuming, but you can fill me in on this. You're speaking to people who have done funding events. You're connecting with entrepreneurs that are in the middle of funding events, have done funding events, are planning on doing funding events and things like this. You're niching down more into startups, tech startups, funded startups and stuff like that. That's becoming more of your audience as you go forward. I'm kind of curious, sort of like the power of networking to you, what that community has done for you. I think in the Telegram group as well, you've gotten some good feedback from me, but these kind of networks, how do you see these? And I don't know, just kind of your thoughts on that as far as like the folks you've gotten to connect with that you may otherwise not have done.
Yeah. That's so, it's such an invaluable part, like not only of like trying to find your way or success in business, but just to having like a meaningful life, like work and life are one and the same. We can try to separate them and compartmentalize as much as we like, but at the end of the day, like, do you want to have like these are human relationships, and to have a network of people. I don't mean networking like handing out business cards and shaking hands or connecting on LinkedIn, you know what I mean? But like having oh boy, my desk. All right. Having a network of people who you genuinely trust, and who are willing to help you, it's just invaluable. And it's a rich life experience. So entrepreneursorganization.org, I think. It's not, it's expensive and it's not easy necessarily to join. Like you do have to have a qualifying company, but there are variants of it. Like there's an EO accelerator program as well, if you have a bit of a smaller business, but there's a ton of companies just like it. And if anybody does want to do the EO thing, I highly recommend it. I'd be happy to tell you about it. It's been instrumental for me, and I'm still just learning. I've been in it for 3 years. I'm still just learning how to use it. It's just incredible. And it does take time, of course, to build these relationships, because trust shouldn't happen immediately.
No.
And it does. It takes time. Like you need to spend time with people, and you need to each do what you say you're going to do for a long enough period of time for that to be evident that that's the pattern, right? But then once that happens, the number of people. Well, here's a concrete example. When I started this, I was just banging my head against my desk for the first 5 months, 6 months, trying to figure it out. And then I got on Twitter and found Cold Email Wizard, probably one of these people, and joined a group there. Might have joined Utopia or something, which is like $20 a month. It's mostly e-com. Wasn't exactly my thing, but it was kind of the first step in this sort of networking thing in the industry. And like it does start like that, right? It starts relatively superficial. I think the easiest way to expedite and attract the people that will be your future, confidants is to just give before you get. And that's a cliche because it works, right? If you go in there and if you want to have a transactional relationship, you can have those, right? But it's a different thing, right? If you want to have a relationship, it's not really transactional. If you're both deriving value from it that isn't just, financial or what have you. But it starts like that, right? So give before you get. Right now, we just today, a friend. Actually, he's an acquaintance. He's not a friend yet, but hopefully will be. He has an incredible little data company, and they built this Inc. 5000 list of their own, which Inc. 5000 sells for $8,000. But he built one, so it's got all the growth metrics of the 5,000 fastest growing companies in the U.S. With company data and CEO contacts, their Twitter profiles, what have you. So he just built this thing. He built it. It's great, right? And said I could share it with my network. So I sent this. I just made a quick little Airtable form. Hey, if you want to drop this thing in here, right? And the form after they finish it redirects to our website. So my hope there is that like people at least they'll at least become aware of what I'm doing because it's a new company. So there's of course like a marketing angle, but I'm giving away this $8,000 list for free to anyone who wanted it. So I just said it's a friends and family thing. Dropped it in a bunch of EO chats. Dropped it in some course chats that I did. For Sean Puri's power writing course and audience building course. I can drop it Well, actually, no, your Telegram group, they'll fucking spam all these people. I know. They're all cold email. They're all marketers. Yeah. But if anybody's interested in that list, again, fire me an email. I'll send it to you.
Awesome.
But this idea of just giving before you get, right?
Yeah.
And like by sharing this, like I'm earning trust with people because I'm not being a greedy pig. And you know, when you have a question, and then the next part is don't be shy. Like, you know, I reached out to you, I think, with a genuine question because I had a problem. I didn't know how to solve it. Turns out it's the same kind of problem you love to solve. So you wanted to talk. You probably, we were on the phone for like an hour or something the first time.
I think it was over an hour.
You riffed on it. You couldn't, right? You couldn't help yourself because you love solving these problems. And that's true for almost anyone. It's like, don't be shy to reach out. People are more helpful than you think.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, these are all the great lessons in there, man. I think everybody can, what I'm taking away from that is just, you know, community, and with every company I'm building now, it's crazy, you know, because I'm working with another company. Actually, I'm CMO in this other company, and I'm, you know, it's kind of a marketplace model. It's a little different from what I usually do and stuff like this. But, man, the first thing I'm pounding into all these people on the board is just like, let's build a community. And whether you're just getting out and you're joining communities, or whether you're launching a project, and you know, you want to kind of build that. It's so critical, no matter how you build it too. You have, because I'm a part of a couple Slack groups that I can plug to, like, you know, Sales Stack is a great Slack group.
Yeah.
You know, all these different Slack groups that are out there, and I can, again, email us, man, if you have any questions about any of this. So you can CC both of us if you want, because I got, you know, databases of like Slack groups that are just awesome to, you know, again, add value into. You got Reddit, which is like super underrated, and no one talks about Reddit, but Reddit is like, you know, kind of having a bit of a renaissance, I think, or getting close to it anyway. And you got all these places where you can be connecting with people for free. And then as you go, it gets more and more meaningful. And then, like you did, you know, you stick your neck out, you pay some money to be part of kind of an insider, kind of more VIP, more, you know, high level group and stuff like that. It's just having that you know, having that support, having those people around you doing something, again, doing what you want to be doing in some context, is just mind-blowing and totally game-changing. So I think
here's one more. I got one more to add on the topic. It just came to me because you talked about like forking out a bunch of cash to join a group. That is great, but there's actually a hack, I think, to this. And like I've had some of these free groups, right? Slack groups, Telegram groups, WhatsApp groups that have been, you know, that have been great for me, great for learning, great for meeting people who've already done what I'm trying to do. Yeah. There's also another hack though, that the difference between the club you pay $5 or $10 a year to be in and the one you pay $20 a month to be in isn't actually that different. Mm-hmm. So like they're like the paywall, it actually weeds out like, I don't know, 99% of people who aren't serious. And for a pretty small amount, like maybe you can join a group for $100. Just $100, like that's actually going to weed out like all the people that you want access to. They're in there and they're bonding with each other with the same degree that people who join these really expensive groups are. So like I think that the hack there is like, if you find a group that you love, don't be shy to pay $5, $10 a month or $100 a year or whatever to join it, because there's huge value there and people who are in there are way stickier.
Well, you got to take a risk, I think, on that one. And I agree with you 100%. You just got to take a risk. I think like it's just, you never know who's in those groups as well. It's not like, you know, it's one thing that I love. I mean, I get this on the Telegram group all the time, is people going, dude, I get more value from this than X course, Y course, Z course, X, you know, ABC course. Like what you're doing is like giving me so much value directly that it trumps any course I've taken, because not only are you answering with a degree of like urgency to help me out and take me to but there's all these other people chiming in, and I'm connecting with these people and then building relationships and then building businesses with them. Like this is becoming
you have how many irons in the fire do you have right now? You know, you've got your hands in so many pies right now. It's amazing.
I mean, well, and you know,
connect with great people, you can do it.
That's the whole thing. I mean, and I think there's so much value in it, and curating that or being a part of that. Because again, like I'm saying, I'm running a group, but I'm also in a bunch of groups too. And it's just, you know, that kind of feedback, especially when you're doing the entrepreneur thing, man. It's like, you know, partners can screw you over. Partners can fuck your wife. Like, you know, the things we went through earlier. So, you know, at the end of the day, that's always that can happen in an organization. However, when you just got like a community of people around that are just benefiting from learning from everyone's mistakes, learning from people's successes, it's like there's not too much. You know, it's just very a pure thing where you're just getting support on this journey that is. admittedly really, really hard, right? Like as somebody that's been kind of in it for like 10 years solid now, I mean, it is a hard. I know guys with jobs who are making, making what was making 2 years ago, like no problem for a long time, you know what I mean? But they had to get in there every day at 7 a.m. and they had to, wear the uniform and da-da-da, and I didn't. But it's just, it's like, it's hard and it has rewards, but having that support group around you is just so important. And I love your hack, by the way. I think I've also experienced that in my experience. And I've actually seen some guys from the inside launching these high ticket ones and doing this kind of thing. And believe me, these guys have they have nothing beyond what a lot of the guys at $20 a month have either. You know what I mean? It's a lot of
yeah.
A lot of
but the difference between the
on.
free one, right? It's like the free one,
right?
If you find the right ones, they're amazing. But most of them aren't as amazing. You know what I mean? The value that you get from just that little paywall is it's significant in my view.
100%, man. So, I had a couple other topics I was going to go into. Yeah. I mean, if you find this one interesting, we can dive into it. Maybe if you want to keep it short. But we can jump into tools in a minute and kind of get back to where you wanted to go there. I wanted to talk about COVID and specifically shitty markets. I don't really think of COVID as COVID. I think it's a horrible time in the market. There's a lot of inflation going on right now. There's a lot of, whole industries sunk because of some government regulations that whether you agree or disagree with it, it's just heinous that, today your business can be pumping and tomorrow it can totally be dead, like in the ground, 6 feet of dirt on top of it, fucking dead, right? And I think that's a big wake-up call for a lot of folks. And I just wanted to zoom into that a little bit for you and your experience with that. You seem to have flipped to the agency, thankfully, a little bit before that or around that time. And so away from commercial lighting, again, with government rebates that probably were not around anymore at that point. So I'd love to kind of get your view on back to niching in some sense, like kind of, how you, how that felt, I guess, like in uncertain markets, your best, putting your best foot forward in an uncertain market and just realizing that can happen.
Yeah. What a great question. I think this one, like COVID was profound for me because it was my first time experiencing a downturn in the economy at large as an adult. Like not only as a business owner, but just as an adult. Like I never really experienced that. In 2008, I was, 18 or 19. I wasn't that concerned. Wasn't that concerned with the general state of the economy. And I always wondered when it was going to come. And I think when we built our first company, like the sun was always shining. There was a lot of, there was money out there to be made, and there's always money to be made in every market, right? For sure. Right? I'm not going to say that, or at least every market that, that most of us will experience. But there's easy times and there's difficult times, and COVID, thank God, we closed 3 lighting deals on the Thursday, whatever, March 15th or 16th, whatever it was. Yeah. It was like the day that the NBA season canceled and then everyone else canceled. And all of a sudden we were in a pandemic, and I thought it would be a couple weeks. Turned out, we didn't have any commercial lighting revenue after that for like 9 months.
Wow.
Wow. Gutted us. Thankfully we did one project where we learned to import from overseas and did like a UVC germicidal lighting project for a manufacturer. Somewhere else, it was like a one-off crazy project that kept the lights on, but that was months later, and came with all sorts of risk. But we did nothing. And I think we went from this selling 3 projects in a day, which is that's rare, right? We don't usually the projects are big enough that if we don't usually do, they're not, I don't say that to say that they're so huge. It would just be very strange, right? We would close a project or 2 a month. We just happened to close 3 projects, right? But the day before COVID, like, okay, thank God these things, long sales cycle, some of them been in there for a year, a month, 6 months, 9 months. And then thankfully, so we did have a bit of cash, right? And we got the deposits and it worked out there. But then we sold nothing for 9 months. And I didn't have the agency thing then. I spun it off because I think that experience, thank God my wife has a stable income. She has she works in the schools, which in Canada is a union gig. They're paid well. So even when the schools all closed and she didn't work, they worked from home, or even while it was closed completely, their union gig, they all got paid stable income. It's a nice compliment, I think, to an entrepreneur's journey, having a partner who has a stable income. But I made nothing. It was actually a very humbling experience, like to basically make no income. I did my tax return last year, and like I had the accountant, I think I paid the accountant $3,500 to do my taxes, which is a lot, but it was a complicated year for other reasons. And if I were to look at like the income does not does not justify, you know what I mean? It was crazy. It was fucking crazy. It was very humbling, very humbling to make, just to make almost no money and go back to kind of like, not like proverbially, eating out of the trash can for a while, but it also forces you to be, it forces you to innovate and look elsewhere. And then that's, ultimately what got me here and got me connected to you. Cause we, like, here's one place where we could make money, is like, turns out we could spin off this agency. And from this network, I had a friend in a network who said, dude, people would pay money for this. Why don't you try it for us? I go, okay, great. Did it for one more guy in the network. And he said, yeah, man, there might be a business here. And then next thing we know, we incorporated, and now we got a business.
Absolutely brilliant. And one thing I want to zoom in on that too, in that situation, is that the network that you're a part of is not all agencies. Okay, number one, that's also one thing I want to zoom in. The network is entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
Is business owners.
Oh, yeah.
And that's also something really interesting and really inspiring for me on my side, and also I think interesting for everyone listening, that the thing that kind of inspired you and validated a market for you in a dire time where like you said, no income for 9 months is absolutely, I mean, that's just unthinkable for most of us. That's like like eating out of the trash can is not a metaphor all of a sudden, you know what I mean? It's pretty real. And so I think and I don't know, I've never had that happen to me. I've just eaten shit for more than 9 months and had to live like that. But I know that feeling when you fall from somewhere down to somewhere you never thought you'd fall again, and you have the support of people who are not just, because if you had been in a group of only commercial lighting people, that would have been a different world, right? But you were in a group where you've got other folks with other businesses, other viewpoints, other, there's going to be some people doing SaaS model, doing agency model, doing local servicing model. One of my favorite Reddit groups, actually, one subreddits, is Sweaty Startup, which is startups that are all about like local areas, scaling out, like maid services, car washing, these kinds of things. And so people that are listening to me right now might laugh. They might go, oh shit, car washing. These guys are doing like $2, $3, $4 million a year easily. You know what I mean? Some of these guys are absolutely crushing it, doing their made for hire business, or they're just rolling out an app to now assign maids to automatic locations. There is like markets you never thought about. There's things you never thought about, and without having a community around you know what I mean? You can just be alone, and your wife's there holding the bag, and you're going, fuck, man, what the hell? Like, when will the lighting industry come back? Right? That's like you're so. Yeah. I think that's so important. I think that's really cool to point out also, that like, if you're a marketing dude, get in sales groups. If you're a sales guy, get in marketing groups, get in like local business, car wash, because there's like sales concepts and things and marketing concepts and systemizing concepts that are going to come out of those other places that can be super inspiring for whatever you're doing, whether that's, agency, SaaS, coaching, consulting. Definitely. Doesn't matter. Right. And then you also find clients in there. Like, that was your first beta client, and then you kind of went from there, right? So, and
still a lot of our current clients, whether direct or indirectly, because like, you're not allowed to solicit in the group, right? It's kind of one of the things that makes it special. Right. But you put a bunch of people who are addicted to doing business together in a high trust environment, and like, it's not surprising everyone starts doing business with each other.
Absolutely.
But yeah, right. Whether directly or indirectly, most of our business has come through that network or super critical, man. So anyway, I love that. I think we're covering some really interesting shit. So why don't we, I think we're going to start to wrap up here, but I wanted to jump into the tools. What was your question, or what was your topic on tools you wanted to cover? I would love to cover that. Let's just riff quickly on tools. I think I imagine a lot of the people here do cold outbound, right?
Many, yes.
Right? Would that be relevant?
Many.
Like, yeah,
absolutely.
Like, I would just love to riff on, because like, things are changing quickly. As you know, like the amount of SaaS that's coming out, and then also the changes to the game. Like, I don't know You guys are working on stuff. There's some GPT-3 stuff that's very interesting right now.
Oh yeah.
There's some new, actual software, right? Whether it's Mailerize or Quick Mail, or like there's so many cool new tools. So I'd love I don't know if are there parts of your tech stack that you don't share? Here's a good question. Yeah.
That's a great question.
Do you share everything in your tool belt? Because I'm always torn. There's a few things I don't share. That's an unbelievable
question.
And I wonder if it'd be better if I did.
Well, let's do it on this podcast, man. I mean, the people that get blessed with this podcast, I think, are going to be a pretty elite group of people, I would say, that are going to really take a lot from this. So, yeah, I'll say a couple of things. Yeah, it's so. I guess what I always like to go back. So this is not actually very common to do on the podcast. It's cool. It's kind of the first time we're really digging into cold outbound in a real technical way. So why don't we do that? I think first off, I want to set the stage, or at least preface anything we say right now by saying that there is absolutely no substitute for building real relationships with people, being genuine, coming up with good offers, and actually going out there to help people, and not
except for cold email. No, I was kidding.
Well, it's what it feels like. It's what it feels like sometimes. I think people really, they're just hungry, man. They just want to send emails for whatever reason. But I think to always bring it back to that, I think that's really always what I try to focus on. The tools. I'm never going to say that the tools matter more than the actual backbone of what you're trying to do, and the thing, the actual value that you're trying to provide in the sales process and all that kind of stuff. But as far as tools go, man, yeah, it is insane right now. There's a lot of movement, and Google's getting stricter. I think I'll start by saying that Google's definitely getting stricter. People are seeing a lot more little red flags everywhere, and Google's not stupid, man. I want to definitely say that to anybody listening. Google's not dumb, dude. They're smarter than you think, and they're kind of scary in my mind in some sense. You know what I mean? Because just of the amount of data and the amount of the amount of resources that they have is just stifling, and the AI and the machine learning they have is not what you think it is. They know what you're doing when you're cold emailing. They're letting you get away with it in some cases because you're doing okay with it. When you do shit with it, they block it. So they know what's going on. They know what's happening. They're not stupid. So I'll say that from the top. Will cold email always exist? Yes. So I think, as far as a customer acquisition channel and all that, it's always going to exist, because email is just, it's like breathing for humanity at this point somehow, in a very short almost 3 decades or whatever that it's been. So I guess tool-wise, man, so we're working on Growth Boost. That's one option. You got Skylead. Skylead's also awesome. They're a direct competitor to most of what I'm doing always, but I think that they're also doing a fine job. I think there's
hold on. I don't want to dig into that one. What if I break it up into buckets as like a rapid fire thing, and then get your take? I'll show them mine. You can show them yours, and then we'll see. It's actually going to be kind of like, I wish that somebody did this when I started this a year ago. So this would be this could actually help somebody tremendously. And it's stupid. Like, I feel like I shouldn't. I always feel like I shouldn't share it. But then at the end of the day, here's the analogy that came to me recently, within the last week or two, was like, if let's say you have a Stradivarius, right? It's like $1 million violin. It's like a beautiful tool. It sounds incredible, right? But like, if you take the $1 million violin and give this tool to someone who doesn't know how to play it, like, they're not going out there to play a concerto, right? It's like, so at the end of the day, the tool is the tool. And like, I used to be so afraid of showing the customers tools that we use with Apollo or whatever, thinking that they would then just replace us. But the opposite happens. They don't say, I can't wait to get rid of these guys. They say, thank God I don't have to use this tool.
Exactly. That's a really good point. You made a great point. So keep that, keep that in your mind always, guys.
Okay, so here we go. But you ready?
Shoot it. Fire.
All right. ESP, Google or Microsoft?
Whoa. Okay. So ESP. Yeah. So Google. I'd say Google. Personally, I think I nothing against Microsoft. I think some people are getting insane deliverability with Office 365 and Outlook. However, like, I just can't. I just can't do it. I've tested it. It's almost equal in my tests. At the end of the day, I don't give a shit. So I just don't care. I'd rather go Google. Google domains.
Awesome.
Make it easy. Make it fast. Make it scrappy. Get some goddamn emails out there. Another one, though, I will say that people don't talk about. Again, I haven't really been giving this away, and I'm testing it very deeply right now, is Amazon SES.
I was going to ask. That's in another bucket.
Yep. As an ESP, though, I mean, it really, I think, they are, for cold email, it is against terms and conditions, but obviously, so is SendGrid and so is all these other things. However, I put it way above SendGrid and way above Mailgun and any of those things, Sendinblue or any of that for deliverability. The thing is pretty damn awesome with deliverability. So I have to say, SES has been blowing my mind, and the cost is just stupid. I mean, 10,000 emails.
You're not an SMTP guy, right?
I am. Oh yeah, no, I definitely am. I mean, in terms of sending, I mean, it just depends on the campaign.
Are you coming around? Yeah.
It depends on the campaign. I think for people getting going, I honestly think manual sending is the best thing to do. That's how I got my early wins. You need to figure out what's resonating. You need to depend on 100% deliverability, and you need to do something cheap and easy to send, like 10 or 20 emails a day, and you need to get in the habit. You actually need to personalize each email, and in my opinion, you need to get quick wins to go forward in this space, in this whole business model. So
God, I respect you so much for that. I do. I respect you so much for being willing to send manual emails. I wouldn't do it. I know. I used to do it. I have done it, but I wouldn't do it now. Yeah, they do crush.
Oh my God.
You get 20% interested rates. You can get ridiculous.
Easily.
Ridiculous, because you're actually thinking about it, right? And you're like, you stop trying to be the automation captain, up in the spaceship, and you're like,
that's right.
You look at this guy and you're like, here's how I would write to him. And you write an email from a human to a human, which is what all our automation tools are trying to replicate. It turns out that actually works.
Dude, it works insanely. And I've gotten meetings with some serious heads, man, like with that kind of method, man. I've met with some, those 40, 50, $100 million companies. You can approach those people with that kind of effort, because most firewalls in those levels of organizations also block automated emails as much as humanly possible. It's from outside of the domain. It's got an image in it. It's got a link in it. They throw that stuff away. No one even ever sees it. And so a lot of people going for the higher level deals, which I endorse, go after high level deals, cut your teeth. If you're not going to go get the job, please don't sell to plumbers and stuff. Don't sell to doctors right away. Go out and get some big deals, because that's gonna propel you forward to be able to do everything else and find good offers, interview these people, know them better, build relationships. But when you're at a point when you have a business model that's solid, you have an offer that's killer, you kind of know what you're doing, you're getting good reply rates, something like SES is just going to save you from having to make like 8 Gmail accounts, and you can send a really high volume and get pretty good deliverability that doesn't go in the promotions tab magically, instead of unlike SendGrid and all those other ones. So
yes.
ESP wise, those are my top 2 is just Google and SES. Okay. If I had to just choose 2. Yeah.
Email verifier. We use Zero Bounce. Oh, and I should also say we use Google pretty well exclusively. We're experimenting with some SMTP stuff. I'm going to try that on SES, but we play Google Whack-A-Mole for the most part. Email verifier. We use Zero Bounce. What do you use?
Yeah, I go cheap, the cheapest humanly possible. Million verifier.
Million verify. Yeah, you do.
Cheap as humanly possible. I don't care. I just want to send the damn emails. Give me some emails. Let me send some stuff. Love it. So yeah. Zero Bounce is great. Great. Never Bounce, a great product. All those are great products. So 100%. Yep.
AI warm up.
Okay, so this is an interesting topic. So number one, I think that if you're using Google, for number one, it doesn't matter. I'll say it doesn't matter. That would be my actual recommendation. I'll just back up and say it doesn't fucking matter. I know guys, we had talked about this the other day. I know guys who just don't warm up at all, and they just start sending 100 emails a day, and they do fine with it. It's totally one of those black box things where, like, if you want to do, I would say test everything you can. If you're going to do Amazon SES and you already have a proven offer, proven market, you're ready to send some more on the bulk side emails, you do not need to warm up Amazon SES or one of those SMTPs. You just start sending, and you just know you're going to get a good reply rate because you know what the fuck you're doing. So end of the story. But all the products out there are good. All the products out there are just doing their thing. GMass is the free one. Yeah. For this kind of purpose, I go free. I mean, it's just like, good God, it's not that important. Signing up to newsletters is important. Manually sending some emails also, maybe. Google doesn't, like we said earlier, Google's not stupid, man. They know what you're doing. They know what these tools are. That lemwarm thing isn't working anymore that well. A lot of those things end up burning things faster than they help. So I'll say that, again, it just totally depends, but keep it down to a dull roar if you're going to do it at all, and just focus on getting good reply rates, man. That's all I can tell you. Do manual shit in the beginning so you get 100% deliverability and you know it,
Yes.
and you're not tracking opens. You just have a spreadsheet. Email me or go in the group. We have a spreadsheet that I just shared with somebody. I'll slap that on the website somewhere. That'll help you track manual efforts and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, that's the best deliverability. So
I love it.
Everything else,
I love it, especially when you're warming. I think that's such a great idea because you are like your deliverability. Like you need to prove great deliverability at the start, and if you're doing it manually, you're not fucking it up with bouncing emails. You know, you're just not screwing as much up, and you're going to get a great open rate. You're going to get a great reply rate. Like your engagement is actually going to be good. Okay, next.
And one of the reasons you're getting a great open rate is because you're not tracking open rates, man. That little pixel, you never know what that goddamn thing is doing in there. And with iOS 14 and all this anyway, there's a whole, we can write a book on this, but go ahead forward there.
Okay. Obviously for data, it's ListKit, obviously, but if someone is a moron and they wouldn't use ListKit, where would they get their data?
Well, not moronic at all. I think again, ListKit is one of those things, and it's a good one though. I think once you got your offer, your business model, your market kind of somewhat figured out. Okay, I think that ListKit's a great option at that point because you're saving time, which is becoming your greatest asset at that point, of course, right? I think when you're low on money though, because ListKit's fairly expensive for data, I would say, and it's a service. I would say, so Prospecting Toolkit is kind of my go-to for getting going because you're just going to be able to scrape LinkedIn Sales Nav. You can do it unlimited, and you got a couple tiers of pricing that are going to rival anything else. So you can just get data quick, start pounding, do that million verify, do that zero bounce thing, get some damn clean data, and start sending. So I think that's the coolest one. LinkedIn obviously is an adjunct to that. You do need LinkedIn. If you're a member of our group, you get a LinkedIn discount for Sales Nav. So putting that out there as well. Hit me up about that if you want that.
I can hit you up for that.
Yeah, I'll get you that, man. You just let me know. I have a page for that. I just send it over to you. But yeah, we'll give you half off on that and use that in the beginning, in my opinion. That's gonna and LinkedIn, I have to just give a quick synopsis that LinkedIn is always going to be the most accurate data at this current moment just because it's user generated. People are filling it out. People are changing their roles when they change. People are doing all this stuff, and LinkedIn picks up on that and has great filters and lets you search that stuff. They have tech stack data now. They got a good bit of intent data in terms of recently funded or senior leadership changes.
Their industries.
Just their industries alone. Yeah,
that's
their industries
that sucks, right?
It's a bit limiting, but still, man, honestly,
it's doable. But manufacturer, right? Like, so suppose you were fighting. This is the manufacturer's a classic example because like they actually put it as like manufacturers in aerospace and in manufacturers in whatever ball bearings, automotive. There's no you can't get the actual
This is going to trip you out, man. This is going to trip you out. So this is going to trip you out. I think, and you just mentioned SIC code, and we can. I think when it comes to manufacturing or supply chain, physical type businesses and things of this nature, man. Go for the databases that specialize in those things. Go for the government listings.
Data Axle.
Data Axle. You've got
There's a free hack. Hack library card. Go to any library card, and you can go online to the online resources, and you can get free Info USA or Data Axle access. You can pull like a 200 or 500 or whatever a day, and it's the exact. You get free access to their database for getting a free library card at your local library. Fucking
great hack. If you're in America, definitely do that. And if you're not, there's like all kinds.
Works in Canada too.
In Canada as well. I'm not sure about like India and those kind of places, but man, they've got shit out there, man. You can like go look for company directories when it comes to those kind of niches. And if you want to go by SIC code and stuff, that can be smart. But enrich, just take the company URL from that listing, scrape those somehow, which is pretty easy. There's tons of browser, data scraper, Chrome extension will let you like visually, Phantom. Well, even just getting the company URLs in one spreadsheet or one list, put those in Prospecting Toolkit, get emails from them of the roles you want, start reaching out. It's like enrich what you can find out there. That's why Prospecting Toolkit always comes to my mind because it's just you can just throw company URLs in there, output email, start sending. So wherever you find the data from, it's going to maybe vary a little bit. I would say LinkedIn universally is probably the best. But of course, when you get to e-com, you got store leads, you've got built with, you've got all these other things that you want to pull company URLs from so then you can enrich them for manufacturing, specialized stuff like that, robotics, commercial LED distributors, manufacturers, OEMs, everything. There's gonna be government directories, directories you can buy and stuff of that kind of stuff. So yeah, every prospecting thing has a different kind of angle to it. You just got to get as creative as you possibly can there.
Love it. For quick and dirty, we use Apollo.
Yep,
and then of course
that's
we use
another great
a million other tools, but Apollo's got a good database. It's for $100 a month and a little bit of a macros automation, so you don't have to click 1,000 pages. It's good. Next.
Yep.
And I only have 2 more. And then we can all go to sleep. Email drip. So your actual sequencing emails. Obviously I imagine Growth Boost is a good one.
So Growth Boost is kind of obviously I have to plug Growth Boost. I'm very proud of it. I think it's we're definitely improving on something that is out there, but it doesn't function that great. So Growth Boost is there for the multi-channel, omni-channel. Again, that's not going to be for everybody. That's a little bit more of an advanced thing. 150 a month, 100 a month for one of these kinds of things. You're looking at a little bit more of an investment, and I recommend it obviously if you're getting serious and you're knowing your stuff and you're tracking numbers and you're doing your thing. If you're just getting going, man, I mean, look, GMass is a great one. Mail Meteor is a great one if you just want to do mail merge in the beginning for that beginning of the automation stuff. Again, Prospecting Toolkit has that cooked in. Again, you're just at the end of the Mailshake's great. I think there's one. I'll give one really funny secret away really quick of one that no one talks about. Let me see if I can find it really quick. Oof. I hope I can find it. So I think honestly, again, this is one of those situations where I would say that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really, really, really matter what you're using. I think it's just as long as it sends emails. I think Mixmax is one that I used in the past also that I really enjoyed as far as how it functioned. How about you, man? What's your zone on this? And then I'll come back with this.
Right now, primarily, like I used to use Close.io. I used to use Mailshake. Right now, we primarily use Apollo. But Apollo's reply handling, like for our accounts where the customers are handling their own replies, Apollo's great. But the reply handling inside of Apollo is pretty useless. So you end up just, with a ton of Google browser tabs and whatnot, and managing replies from the inbox. But one that I'm actually really excited to try, and I could plug it because they also have a really great podcast. You should try and see if you can get them on here. Jeremy Chatelaine, I believe, Quick Mail. We're just testing it right now. It looks good.
QuickMail's great. QuickMail's great.
Have you used it yourself?
I have. In the past, I have. Yeah, I've kind of tried all of these just because, just checking out what's out there and trying them all out. So yeah, I have used QuickMail and it's really nice actually. It's
what's the other little secret? Mailerize?
Man, I am trying to find. It's I can't remember. It's nothing notable, man. It's free though. It's 100% free, and I'm tripping on it right now. Let me. I
also know some guys who've built nice agencies around Lemlist.
Yeah, Lemlist
blows my mind.
Man, I used to use Lem. We used to use Lemlist in my agency. Yeah, it's pretty horrific looking, but at the time, a couple of years ago, I got to say it was definitely best in class, and we were using it as well. I'm actually featured on the Lemlist website if you go search around.
Actually, I have seen that.
So we definitely did use Lemlist. It was great. I can't hate on it at all.
All right, I got one more. And you can dig that up. Okay, last one, and then we'll get the hell out of here, and we'll have to do it again. It's been fun.
Absolutely.
I would love to we could even do one on benchmark stats if we want to really open the book, like reply rates, open rates, deliverability, and bounce rate, and like we could dig in one time and actually like go into the weeds. But for now,
would love to.
I heard I read something that was interesting, and it said in a lot of cases you can get around warm up by using extensions that aren't .com, etc.
Yeah.
And even .co.
Oh, yeah.
So what's your favorite domain extension if you're buying a domain for cold outreach?
That's a really intricate question. I would say info.info, .biz. We generally go for that low hanging fruit. That's not, and you're absolutely right. So .com domains are one of the few TLDs or whatever those are called. I can't remember right now, but yeah, the suffixes. One of the few suffixes that actually carries part of the domain reputation along with it when it is lost and transferred and bought again. So .coms, you never know what you're getting with a .com. There's times when you can like start sending with a .com and have it just totally get marked as spam and get totally just tarnished the reputation immediately. And you go, what the hell happened? And it's because someone else spammed with that domain before you and you didn't know it. .info, .biz, .agency, .marketing, all those. I mean, I don't suggest .marketing, but any of those other TLDs basically.
You like them?
Out there, they all work and they don't carry the history with them. So if you're buying them, you are the first one that's establishing a reputation with that domain. So yeah, I definitely recommend not screwing with that. Also, one thing I have to mention too is that sending straight from browser extension mail merge directly from Gmail with no SMTP in the middle is one also big way to get better deliverability in the early time, like MailMedia or Gmass kind of stuff. Especially if you're not really doing it with like a team and you're not really doing it at scale with any kind of like big scale. That can be a big hack as well, especially early in the early days, just trying to get, you've kind of done the manual stuff. You've gotten some clients already, you have some cash flow, throw some of that money into Gmass and use something like that, or MailMedia. They have a lifetime deal right now also. So just, grab something that you can use like that. And then, graduate to the tool. I like to kind of use it like that. Like it's like a ladder. You need to start, in my opinion, you need to establish product market fit before you go crazy. Now, there was something that you and me actually talked about before we wrap up that I thought was really interesting that you were mentioning was you were mentioning an agency that did cold email for market research. Like their whole deal was not the SDR, BDR thing that you and me know so intimately. It was kind of a slightly different model where they send bulk from the get-go. They keep the messages short, I'd imagine. They do it very strategically. And then they send across several different industries using something like SCS from the get-go where they don't have to warm up. And they just start to send emails out there and test markets for companies and go, hey, we're getting a really strong response from this market segment. Let's double down into it and get more personalized and get more, right? So these kinds of things. And I thought that was really interesting that you dropped that. So I think it's just different for every situation. That also can be a good way to start, kind of what we were talking about going broad and then niching down when you kind of find that right fit. So it's really up to you and your situation. Yeah, it's crazy. So lots of ways to do this. Yeah.
Love it, man. This has been great.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you,
let's
Martin.
Get the hell out of here.
So Martin, your domain, if you guys want to check out the agency, is Leadosaurus.com. Do a quick Google on that if you're concerned about the spelling, but Leadosaurus.com. Your Twitter handle, my friend, if you can drop that. I kind of spaced out on what it was.
Yeah, actually, I'm a bad boy, and I'm 20 years late to Twitter, so I'm barely using it.
What the hell is my Twitter handle?
I believe it. No, actually, I just took an audience building course from Sahil Bloom on building a Twitter audience. It's on the list, I promise. But Twitter's not the best way to get a hold of me, but I would love to get my first 10 followers. So, I believe, I'm going to have to send it to you because I turned my phone off so it wouldn't buzz. You could drop it in the show notes, but the best way to get a hold of me would be martin.adey at leadosaurus.com, or find me on LinkedIn. Just, search around. I don't know, track me down. And let's do this again. That was fun.
Yeah, let's do it again soon, man. Keep an eye on Martin and what he's doing too, man. So you keep checking this. If you want to reach out via email, he had mentioned many offers that he's willing to give you. Inc 5000, any kind of if you want to get in touch with this man, email this guy immediately. And feel free to CC me as well if you're looking for some guidance and stuff in this particular vertical. It seems like, or this specific agency style format, cold outreach, yada yada. And man, great meeting with you, man. Really, really interesting to hear all your insights, and let's definitely do it again. So appreciate
Thanks, man. And thanks for all you do for the community. Really, you've been genuinely, one of the most helpful and generous people that I have met in my year in this industry. So thanks for doing that. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks for having me out.
All right. I really hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Always Building. If you want to learn more about Always Building, our community, our membership group, and exclusive webinars and trainings and discounts on software and all kinds of fun stuff, get help along the journey so you're not all alone, go ahead and check out alwaysbuilding.io. That's alwaysbuilding.io. And again, thank you so much. best of luck on your journey. And you just let me know. You can reach out to me on Twitter or via email, alex@alwaysbuilding.io, or at always_building on Twitter. Okay, thanks again. Have a great one.